Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Want to go back to yesterday. In fact, let me get the higher time frame chart here and talk about what we were seeing just before the market opened yesterday. And again, it couldn't have gone any better with what we talk about here. So going into the open, we talked about seeing a nice bullish divergence yesterday. Right, we talked about seeing a bullish divergence off the low of the overnight session yesterday on the 60-minute chart and on the 4-hour chart. So if we move this back over to right around before that candle closed, we saw actually it was basically from the overnight low, nice bullish divergence on the 4-hour here as well. And from the higher context was we were, pulling back from a bearish looking daily candle with some bearish signals up there. But the counter signal from the overnight low was kind of the main thing we talked about yesterday. And we talked about saying that if the market did not break down through the overnight low, we were expecting an attempt by the bulls to break out to the upside. Now, we did not know how far the bulls were going to take it, right? We did come off of the bearish signal from, Fridays of last week's high. It led to this just about 30 point pullback, and then we got our counter signal. So the question was going to be, if that signal was going to follow through, how far were the bulls going to take it yesterday? Well, let's just zoom to the right here and take a look, and what do you know? We broke out to a new high for the year, right off of the signal that we were warning you about before the market opened yesterday. All right, so let's look at what happened on the shortest time frame as the market started to rip higher. So the market opened right over here. We got a pullback right to the 200 freaking moving average, one of our textbook trade setups, and held it there again with less than a 2-point break. Held it, and then we came up, and then interestingly enough, where did we come to and find resistance for? I think it was just about 10 tests here, 50% of the day before, right? So then it parried back and forth between the 200 and the 50% level for quite a while. And again, these breaks are only by a point and a half, a couple ticks. And then the 200 was holding with just a few ticks. And then finally, after a lot of trouble there by the bulls to go ahead and continue to break out, which again was that expectation from the overnight low, it finally broke out. And then look what happened here. Rode the FMA all the way up. We got a little deeper pullback. In this case, you probably would have been stopped out if you held on to this 200 long trade. Came right back a tick or two. I think it was 2 ticks in front of the 50%. So if we zoom out and look, really nice healthy retracement right back to the trouble area. That was a trouble for about an hour just after the open there. Came right back to that section. Held it, and then from there, again, pulled back, held the 200 with less than a 2-point break, and continued to break out, came right back to the 200 again for a 1-tick break that led to the final bounce there by the bulls to break out and come up to a new high for the year. So this was the new high for the year from Friday, was that red line, and then we broke out when we got a couple more points, 5-6 points higher to a new high for the year there. And then what they have to do, probably fake out the bulls who maybe wanted to pull back and buy the high the day before, or even the 200 here, right? It held the 200 again with less than a point of a break, but could not get back up through the high the day before there. And for 1, 2, or on a very short time frame, 1, 2, 3, basically 4 tests of the high the day before. And then it was a rally down to pull back. And we basically came right back to the VWAP there, right? So, and it even had some great plays on the way down, basically holding the 200 with less than a 2-point break for the push down to the end of the day. So if you didn't get any good trades in, I don't know what to tell you. We didn't know how far the bulls were going to push it yesterday morning, but that there was a clue in the chart that made a lot of sense, and we never broke the condition that we laid out in the pre-market session. Was if we couldn't break that low, we were expecting the bounce, right? So everything worked out like it should have, and there were plenty of very, very low risk opportunities as this thing ripped higher. And it's just 200, 200. This was the only break of the 200 that maybe you would have gotten stopped out in if you kept holding on. But here's the thing. When it held the 200 and bounced, it held the FMA and then continued to come lower. So that might have been a clue that maybe you should jump out of that trade, but neither here nor there. Didn't work one time, and then finally held again with less than a 2-point break, held with a couple ticks, and then held here with a couple ticks. So you could have rode the whole thing up just buying the 200, and maybe you would have been stopped out once. But you would have been, let's say you bought the first pullback to the 200, you got almost a 30-point bounce today, or yesterday. So pretty awesome stuff. That brings us into this morning here. As you can see, we bounced in the overnight session right off the 50% of the previous day, 50% of Monday. So that's another. I was talking with, I think, Ted. I don't know if he's in here right now, but we were talking yesterday. He's asking me about the daily power levels. And he said, well, I heard you say that if all you had were the daily power levels, you could have a successful strategy. And I said, yeah, if you look back to the charts and look, the 50% level and all the others, and we can look at all of them. I don't want to spend too much time this morning going through that type of stuff. But if you go back, even yesterday, trying to get through the 50%, you could have shorted that all morning there and it worked. And then finally, when we broke out, you could have basically bought it, although it did miss out by 2 ticks there, so that wouldn't have probably worked. And now in the overnight session here, coming into this morning, another beautiful hold right off the 50%. And then we even, and I actually have to make sure, let's see when this printed here, right around 3 a.m. So our holy orange power level printed right around 3 a.m. here, and then you could have shorted the back end of the holy orange power level once, twice, 3 times, and a 4th time here, and been short off of it in the overnight session. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what the charts have to tell us for this morning.